Welcome everybody to our first ever webinar. We are successful in actually recording this and broadcasting this and having you all as our live partners in this event. Believe me, it has been a challenge, but so is much of our life, isn't it? Whether we go raw or whether we try to put on our first webinar, it can be a challenge, and it can be wonderful when it finally happens. Who am I? What am I doing here? What are we about to accomplish with this first webinar? I am Johanna Sophia, the professor from New York, and I am at my little factory in upstate New York, and here we produce Johanna's Raw Foods, a raw food product line. And you see in the background that we also love to have our space like creatively decorated. We have my birthday wishes from my team still on the board. And yes, I just turned 62 and am a very proud owner of this 62-year-old body. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. And then you also see the elephants, the elephant family that the Waldorf School in Namibia gave me after I taught their teachers and students in Namibia a few years back. And I just love the colors and the vivaciousness of it. And it also reminds me of the fact that my next summit will be on food and sex and sensuality and integrating a healthier, happier sex life into our lives, because we can, because again, this body can be functional. You see those elephants being proactive and procreative, I suppose, or about to. So that's where I am. Just a little bit more about me. This webinar is subtitled. I went through many subtitles, so forgive me, we never really honed in on one title. It is, of course, still the Raw Recovery webinar. And one of the subtitles is How to Go High Raw Without Ever Feeling Deprived. I think that's a lot what we're trying to achieve. Many of you have had, over the course of the summit, questions and have expressed your questions in our survey, and we will talk a little bit about those questions, and we will also answer your live questions. And then we want to talk about the challenges that we all experience when we try to improve our lifestyle and when we are successful in changing our lifestyle. And last but not least, we want to present options to you as to what you can do and how we at Johanna's Raw Foods can be helpful and help you in creating your next chapter in creating this healthier body by recovering and by co-creating a body that is to your liking and a body that you can live in and love in and enjoy many more decades wherever you are currently. So my life has been eclectic from the beginning because I was born into a Waldorf family. My parents were both Waldorf teachers. That means their basis life philosophy was anthroposophy, the knowledge of man or of humanity. I'd rather clip that, which includes a better understanding or an interpretation of why we are here, what we're doing on planet Earth, and how we can become more conscious of who we are. And conscious means access to freedom. It means access to co-responsibility. Of course, freedom and co-responsibility are like this. There is no freedom without co-responsibility, because if you claim freedom for yourself, you have to allow for the freedom of the other person, right? And that only works when it works like this, not when it works like, right? Where's the freedom then? One of you is going to die, or get severely damaged, or subdued, or oppressed. Whereas true freedom means collaboration and joint existence and facilitation of the other person's freedom. So all of that is part of my philosophy, and all of that is part of what we're learning when we clean our body and our brain to a better function and have to spend less time on being sick and decrepit as we age. So a little bit more about the physical steps in my life experience. So I went to mostly Waldorf schools. I loved traveling from an early age, so I spent time in France, in Italy, in Spain, and then I spent a year in Scotland working at a Camp Hill with children with special ed needs, and learned a huge amount of what it means to be a human being stuck in a body that is not fully functioning. And I think we've all rendered ourselves handicapped because of what we do to our bodies, and when our bodies can't cope and have high blood pressure, have joint pains, and have hypertension, of course, same thing as high blood pressure, sorry, and have arthritis, and have all sorts of infections, and have Parkinson's, and have all these diseases that are hindering the functioning of our body. We're basically rendering our bodies also into these incapacitated instruments or machines that we then cannot live in as we should. So I learned at a very early age, I was only 17 years old, in Camp Hill in Scotland, that in all of us is incarnated, or is living, a full human being. We're beginning to understand that more and more. You see it in autistic children, right? The being is in there, the person is in there and cannot communicate because the body is impaired. Whether we believe that is caused by outside influences or by genetics doesn't even matter, but it is a fact that the body is impaired, and we therefore cannot live to our fullest potential. The body, however, is a self-healing instrument, and it took a long time for me to learn that that is how we overcome those challenges of being in a body that is not functioning. Of course, not everything can be healed. If I am born without a leg, I cannot regrow that leg. That is understood. But if I am born with a weak heart, I can strengthen that heart considerably and grow to an age that was previously not considered possible because we did not allow the body to function as well as it can when we take good care of it. So I learned this, and then of course I did go into entertainment. I wanted to participate in the world and experience our zeitgeist, if you will, our what everybody else does, and kind of stepping down from the dream of being the creator of a huge new world thinking institution, another school that's been my dream forever, another center in which to develop a lifestyle that is toward peace, that is toward sustainable technology, that is toward understanding rather than confronting and evaluating by I am better than you are, or you are better than I am. So that dream, while that stayed in the back of my mind, I joined the crowd. I became an actress, singer on stage, created my own one-woman shows, was in movies and television shows, and had that career in entertainment until I met a gentleman from Africa, and I moved to Zimbabwe in 1980-81. So, and there again, moving to a very different culture, a culture that was just growing out of being violated by the European countries for several centuries. I learned how politics work, how the world functions, how most of the world is struggling with the exploitation that the very few impose upon the very many, the 1%ers. So I've known that all my life. Well, as of that moment, I knew it in a much more tangible way. So I lived and had my own studio for dance and drama because I was, as you just heard, coming from stage. I had studied dance in Paris, modern dance, that is. And it happened that I started my own school, and in this school I started the first slimming trimming courses, exploring what food can do to our, of course, slimming down and re-energizing people. And those slimming trimming courses were very successful and very much sought after, and I learned a bunch of things. Nevertheless, I was in the African context, and of course everybody who had a little bit of wealth prided themselves in having all this wonderful wild game meat, and you know, I certainly ate that, and the fresh, unpasteurized, unhomogenized milk from the cows that were actually in the pastures. And I prided myself in having this healthy diet of all this good stuff with a lot of vegetables on the side. And it took a long time reflecting back that I realized that I still had kidney infections, colds and flus and phlegm, and thought that was normal. And it took me another whole while to realize after that experience to come to understanding that even the healthiest meat in the world are not really supporting a human body well. So while everybody may be on their own path, and while you may be on a path where you are still feeling that you need that experience, that is perfectly okay. I was there, believe me, I was there. And we all need to find our own way to feeling wonderful. Of course, I was doing a lot of working out because I was running all these classes at my own school, Stage Studio, fitness classes, modern dance choreographies and classes, and classes with children, etc. And I was always active with my students. I was not the kind of teacher sitting there with a stick and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, I was always participating. So, and I had other teachers too, but that was my first food exploration experience in those slimming, trimming classes that had a set dietary program along with exercise. From there, I came to the United States and I moved into writing about all these experiences and writing screenplays. Went to Columbia University straight into their master's program. Did 3 theses in film. So basically I have 3 masters in writing, directing, and producing for film, and did some television shows, did some independent movies, but then realized that I was in my late 30s and I really wanted to have a family. Now, I was not so lucky with my partners. I'm sure a lot of it had to do with my single-mindedness, still has to, so I want to explore that for the future, that I can possibly become more joinable by a partner. But yes, so I wanted to have a family, and that meant the film industry was not going to provide me with a good base to raise a family financially, etc., because of course my films were independent and you never knew whether you're going to have an income. I had wonderful big contracts, but if a contract doesn't get financed, it doesn't help you to have on the page that you're going to get whatever percentage or income from that. So my big movie contracts died what is called in development hell. 50 out of 51 projects die in development hell, and more kudos to those who survive in the film industry. It is wonderful when they do. So congratulations to everybody. I know that a couple of you may be in that industry as well. And certainly a lot of people who are thinking about food are in the industry, because the creative minds have access to realizing that our body is very influenced by what we put into it. So after that career, I took a corporate job, and because I happen to be able to translate and understand and communicate in 5 languages, I took this corporate job and found a partner who was having children with me, and had my 2 wonderful children and raised them the way I wanted to raise them. Vegan at the time, still with eggs and fish, because I did not have the raw food understanding quite yet. Adding more and more raw food, and 12 years ago had another health challenge within that lifestyle because of high stress, and also because of falling off the wagon and doing silly things because of yet another relationship, and had a mini stroke that some of you may have heard me say that before. And the scariest situation being, I was driving my kids to music lessons. I was just recently reliving that. It was very, very scary. And I was driving in Long Island in New York, a long drive of an hour and a half, and I was in what was then newly created the HOV lane, which is the lane for multiple people in a car, and where you can supposedly go faster, but you can't go out of it once you're in it. So you're like stuck in it, and there's no shoulder to stop. and I was having like a blackout, like a mini seizure or something like that, and I couldn't see, and it starts with everything spinning, and then I couldn't see. It was all black, and I was like, ah! I was screaming, and the kids were in the car, and I was holding onto the steering wheel for dear life, and I was saying, I must come back, I must come back. It was actually scarier than the actual stroke that I had much later than that. But luckily, after just a few seconds, everything came back. And I was still, it was a straight path. I was still in this half lane. And then I went out of it and promptly got a ticket for, going out of the half lane. And it didn't matter that I had I didn't actually talk about it because I did not want somebody to send me to the emergency room because I just had this little blackout. I wanted to get my kids to music lesson, which I did. So you see, we all have those, it's almost like a call for help of our body. Our body is screaming, help me do something so that I can fix myself. Don't do this overstressing. Don't do this workaholic lifestyle. Don't put these things into your mouth that are stopping me from functioning. And it's like a scream of help of our body. And when we don't respond to that, it's going to get worse and worse. And eventually the body just says, okay, fine. If you don't want to do anything about it, I'm just gonna go bad on you. And whether that's arthritis or whether that's MLS or whether that's MS, multiple sclerosis, whether that is dementia, whether that is Parkinson's, whether that is diabetes, whether that is, you name it. Your body will give up, and if you don't change your lifestyle to support it, it will leave you. But it doesn't have to be like that. Unfortunately, we have a wonderful medical system that is really, really good at patching us back together when we have an accident or something. It is great at putting us back together when we sever a limb and it can be put back together. It's amazing. But it doesn't support actually making us well when we have these chronic diseases, because it is built on the doctors earning a living only when we are sick. You see, the Chinese and some other indigenous cultures had a system by which everybody in the village or in the community contributed to the medicine man, contributed every month or every cycle to the medicine man unless they were sick. Then what is the incentive for the medicine man? The incentive is everybody is doing well, I am wealthy, I get supported by everybody, I am celebrated, I am doing great. The moment somebody gets sick, it is my job to get them fixed as fast as possible so that I can be well again. If everybody gets sick and I can't fix anything or I can't help them, I am going to be poor. So if we have that kind of a system of sharing in that way, then that should be the approach. Everybody contributes unless they are sick. And of course, originally, the system of insurance was supposed to do that. But it is not, because everybody is making money only when people are sick. And it's a sad realization, because you can't really fault your doctor for saying, come back in 2 weeks, come back in 2 months, or we should do this operation, or we should do these medications. Because that's all they know. Whereas once you realize that this body here is a self-healing instrument, then you can say, like Dr. Brian Clemens says of the Hippocrates Institute, I had him on my summit, as some of you know, there is no cure. There is only self-healing. Repeat with me. There is no cure. There is only self-healing. Leave out the only. There is self-healing. How empowering is that? I can heal this instrument, this body of mine, this thing here that I love, that I live in, that is like, I love my body. Like I told you, I just turned 62. And I was walking back from the lake day before yesterday. The day after I just told you the story of the farmer walking into my factory and telling me he was just diagnosed with prostate cancer. And what can he do? And the year before, he had told me he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And he again had said, what can he do? I made suggestions, but he continued his old lifestyle. Now he had a double problem. And again, it is so hard to say, yes, I can do it. So more about that later. It is so difficult to go from realizing to actually taking action. So I was walking back from the lake after going jogging to the lake, after swimming in the lake, and I was saying to myself, look at this. You have this functioning body. You do not even appreciate how awesome that is. At 62 years of age, after a lot of workaholism and abuse, if you will, this 62-year-old body, because of what I allow into it and onto it, because it's not only what we put in our mouths, it's of course also what we put on our skin, what we put in our environment, what this space is holding that is imprinting on us and impacting on us. We will talk more about that over the year. So I was walking back and I was saying to myself, how awesome is that? How grateful am I? And it doesn't matter whether I have $0 in the bank or whether I have $1 million. Yes, I can probably do more for the world if I have a little bit more than I do right now. But I have this body and it's functioning. And I can build whatever I decide to because it is functioning. My brain is functioning. It actually is in there. It doesn't give me headaches. It doesn't give me earaches. It doesn't give me limitations in my nervous system. I don't have diabetes. I don't have, you name it. Of course, we still have a lifespan that ends at some point, but it should end at 100 or 110. And it should end with us deciding that we have done our job in this lifetime and that we can now go and be at peace with what we have accomplished because we have accomplished what we set out to do. So I want to talk about today what you may want to accomplish, and I have a bunch of questions from you that I would like to address, or overall statements that I need to bundle because they came in hundreds of surveys from you. after the summit. So that's what I want to address too. And then I want to talk a little bit about how best to address these concerns and how best to transition into a new lifestyle. Every time we make a change in our lifestyle, we need a support system. We need a strategy. We need a plan. And let me just go over what some of the big responses were. In your surveys, one of the big responses was, I would rather start immediately with this new chapter and this new lifestyle. The vast majority said they would not want to wait. They would not want to like slowly pitter-patter transition. They would like to start the new lifestyle. Many of you said they were overwhelmed with all the information that we have access to now. And I can certainly feel that. Every day I'm learning something. It's just that I already have it in me that I have to establish this raw food lifestyle. Now I am raw for 12 years, I told you. I happen to feel that I'm not fanatic about it. So if there's still some raw cashews in my diet, or if my kids cook something vegan, I want to taste it. I am not fanatic about it. I don't think it needs to be fanatic. I don't freak when I hear that somebody used a non-virgin oil, but I am invited, and I'm of course going to taste their dish. I may not eat much because it doesn't feel right, but I want to enjoy the community nevertheless, and it can be done. I want to show you that you do not have to be deprived. You do not have to lose your community. Oh, and by the way, many of you said, or the majority, no, it was said, 50% said that your family, your friends, and your colleagues support your change of lifestyle. So not many of you said that you're being ridiculed or threatened, you know, as we were like 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, other people would say to us, you know, I cannot see you do this. You're doing harm to yourself, and you're going to be so undernourished. We know that all of those statements are wrong because there's plenty of science that supports that raw, organic, plant foods help our body and nourish our body best. Many of you will have heard of the study. Many of you will have heard of the many institutions that have had thousands and hundreds of thousands of people go through them with ample proof that a vegan, high raw lifestyle is indeed the healthiest lifestyle we humans can have. And if you want to hear more about that, if some of you have not heard the interviews with the doctors and experts that are on my summit, please email me and let me know that you would like to listen to these doctors who have found the ample proteins that are in our plant food, who have found and researched and scientifically shown that our human bodies are herbivore bodies. That means we are not meant to eat meat. Yes, we have eaten meat for thousands of years, as we have done other things for hundreds and thousands of years. One of the extreme examples that I like to give is that we for thousands of years had the Chinese tie little girls' feet into crippling little lumps of flesh on which they needed to walk. not just for hundreds, for thousands of years of culture that wanted women to walk in these crippled little feet so that they would make little steps and could not get anywhere without pain and agony and often early death from terrible infections of these crippled feet in which the bones were grown into each other. Let me give you that one more example. Let me give you the one more example of the cultural things that we humans do because we are creative beings. We want to advance, and we do things that are not necessarily a good idea. Okay, the one more example I'm going to give you, because it was also long-lasting over hundreds and hundreds of years, and many, many, many difficult, painful deaths, and that is the Roman culture. The Romans had lead mines. Lead, you know, that metal that we now painfully peel out of our wall paints because we think it impairs children's brains, and it does. The Romans mined pure lead and made pure lead plates and goblets and big bowls, and for hundreds and hundreds of years ate from those plates, drank out of those goblets, whereby the wine you pour into such a lead goblet is acidic and absorbs the lead beautifully into its liquid and gets it directly into it poisonous. The people who were condemned, and they were often condemned people to work in the lead mines, could not survive if they worked in a lead mine for more than 3 years. More than 3 years in a lead mine meant a definite death sentence. There's lots of documentation on that. There are descriptions of how painfully the miners of lead mines died because their organs would disintegrate on the inside while they were alive. Very painful deaths, and certain death. Romans had a life expectancy of an average of 35 years. So their careers had to happen by age 25. They had to be on top of their professional mark. They had to be the kings, the legionnaires, the whatever their professions were, because that was the height of their career, and from then on it was old age, or growing into old age and dying if they were lucky at 40. So since we are, however, good enough at procreation, we managed to survive all these crazy inventions of our cultures. And we've always believed, when in the middle of it, that this is the right thing to do. That's just the way our culture does it. You know what my little tagline for that is? Culture is always stronger than reason. We may full well know that lead is poisonous, that fluoride is poisonous, that plutonium is poisonous, but we continue to use it because we argue that we need it. We need this culture, and if it kills us, that's the way it is. You know, we gotta die. However, at 62, I am so glad that I don't have to eat from lead plates, that my feet were not tied like Chinese girls, that I'm able to go and learn and work out and feed my body the right things, that I don't have to wear a corset that damages my inner organs, another one of our crazy cultural inventions, which was, by the way, justified by doctors saying that women have a very weak body. Their spine is not able to hold itself upright, and therefore we need to tie them tightly as of the age of 10 into these tight corsets to keep us upright, to push our breasts up, to give us a posture, and to squeeze our organs into dysfunction and dis-ease, into fainting spells, into miscarriages, into misery, because we believe it is necessary. So there it is. And the same is true for our animal consumption. And the same is true especially for our dairy consumption. And much more about that later throughout the year, as I will be talking to you about more of these crazy inventions that we have in our cultures. Now, I am not an anti-culturist at all. I love art. I love music. I love concerts. I love architecture and awesome buildings. We are creative beings, and all around the world you will find that people make beautiful environments for themselves. Paintings, sculptures, decorations, organization of a room. Every space that humans create has the aim of beauty in it. Whether it's in an African village, or whether it's in a Chinese village, or whether it is the Inca pyramids, or whether it is the Chrysler Building in New York City. All our inventions have the intention of being beautiful. And then, of course, we get to mass production, and then, of course, we get to how can I do this cheaply, and for those other people who don't care about beauty, who are the poor people, and so forth. And we are very derogatory because of our hierarchical systems. And we don't recognize that everybody has the need for beauty. Everybody has the need for feeling at home in their body. And everybody should have the right to both. So, how can we get there? Or how can we get closer to that goal? Let's see. We all need also for our life certain routines that enable us to feel stable and feel a continuum in our life. As concerns of food, let's just go back to food, because after all, it's Johanna's Raw Foods, and we are here for how delicious raw foods can restore your health at any age. We are here for learning about the food angle on all those cultural and human elements of that which we call our life. If you hear those noises, those are motorbikes going past my factory, and I am in the center of this little village, so forgive the noise. It'll be temporary. So the food angle is what enables us to live better in these bodies, and in order to get a handle on providing our bodies with good food, we need those routines, right? We need to establish, like we have in all cultures, you know, we either eat scrambled eggs and bacon like almost every morning, and yes, I have done it for years too, and or we need to eat muesli or cereal or you name it, or sardines and sweet buns in Japan, or every culture has their own rituals and basic foods that supply a routine, and that routine enables us to have a sense of stability in our life from which we then do the other things we do in life, that which we call our professions. And those routines and habits are difficult to change for everybody, because they are not just that, just what we happen to be doing, and if we were somewhere else we could do something different. It takes a lot of effort, and sometimes it takes being physically taken from one spot and put to another spot and experience that other routine for recently as what's her name, changed to veganism, Beyonce, and put out this book, 21 days or 22 days, because a psychological finding shows that it takes 22 days to establish a new habit. Now, I believe that may be true. You may be able to establish a new habit in 22 days, but it takes much longer to really make that a lifestyle. So I believe that we should give ourselves a year to establish that new lifestyle. And there will still be challenges way into it. I've now been raw for 12 years, and there are challenges even today as I tackle the onslaughts of all sorts of elements from the outside. So I would like you to give yourselves a year to transition from your existing lifestyle to that next level of healthier lifestyle that you wish for yourself. Now, for some of you, you are already raw and are just looking for additional support so you don't have to make everything yourself, so that you can have the benefit of getting the food sent into your home that we and others provide. For some of you, it may mean starting out altogether, exploring what it feels like to be in a different eating habit, establishing that habit, getting to realize that you can indulge. You know what I had for breakfast? Chocolate mousse. You know what it was made of? It was made of orange, apple, pear, banana, blueberries, virgin coconut oil, a little bit of virgin raw agave juice, organic, that I get from a cold processing plant. Now hear me, cold processing plant. It's not that agave juice that's been heated. So, and what else? A drop of vanilla, and I think a handful of nuts. No, I actually, in this one, I didn't put any nuts. Oh, and water, and a teaspoon of psyllium. Oh, it's a secret ingredient. That is a sneaky secret ingredient that turns the whole thing into this fluffy, foamy, awesome mousse, that is light. And you just put it in your mouth, and it just goes like, oh, it's like a mini orgasm. But it's just so awesome. So that's what I had for breakfast, because I needed to feel spoiled and wonderful, and tons of magnesium calming me down, because I've had a challenge putting this webinar together. So, in short, and just as I can make zucchini spaghetti with the most awesome sauces, and just as I can make our walnut meatballs with tomato sauce, and tacos, and burritos, and cakes, and pies, and everything under the sun that you can make in the dead, you can also make in the live. So I've concluded that years ago, there's nothing stopping us from making the most awesome dishes in raw food. And yes, it is creating culture. Now, some of you may say, I like to just eat my foods pure, and there are the natural hygienists. Jo Willard was certainly a person I listened to a lot when she was on the radio, and others. So there are some people who say, no, I just want to eat my lettuce pure, and my apple, and my banana, and my cucumber, and my radish, and that's it. Fine. I just love creating a beautiful meal, sitting down, because it makes me feel human. Just like this language, this singing that I do. By the way, this morning I just had to sing all over the place because I felt I needed to sing some tension out of my body to adjust to all these challenges that I was having, these technical challenges, before we were able to put this together for you. So art and creativity, language, music, dancing, again, dancing and exercise are related, meaning creating movement, creating these energy waves that are, of course, put out into the world when we create art, are all part of what makes us humans. And while all our mammalian friends, like those beautiful elephants in the back there that you see, they're very, very caring and very feeling beings. And it's wonderful that they still are around. And please, let's make all efforts to keep them longer so they don't die out on us, which is a real danger right now. While they have all these feelings and wonderful family lives, and we can learn a lot from them. I wrote a song once that includes the line, the animals who teach us strength and love. Yet there is that creativity that is beautiful, but that also enables us to be destructive. It enables us to create beauty, and it enables us to be self-destructive and planet-destructive. One more word to that. We are now learning that we indeed are co-responsible for something like global warming by putting out a lot of gases into the atmosphere. And the atmosphere is very thin. You know how I know that? I've been on those high mountains in the Alps where you almost 4,000 meters above sea level. Times 3, so that's 12,000 feet above sea level. Or here too, I've been in the Rockies at 11,000 something feet. And you step out and march in that altitude, and you feel that the air is much thinner. You have to take much deeper breaths to get the same amount of oxygen. What does it teach us? It teaches us that this layer of atmosphere around our planet is very thin. Even our mountains kind of peek out of it. And even our mountains show us that it is a limited space in which we humans can actually live, namely breathe. Once we've learned to just do away with breathing, of course, then the atmosphere, who cares? Have you managed yet? So we have learned that this thin atmosphere that we have can be destroyed by what we humans put into it. And it can lead to the destruction of the livability of the planet. So we've learned we are co-responsible for the livability of our planet. How can we possibly at the same time think we are not co-responsible for the livability of this body? How does that make sense? Of course we are co-responsible for the livability of this body by what we put into it and onto it. And just as the planet has an atmosphere and an electronic magnetic field around itself, so do we on the inside and on the outside. What we put in here and on here, onto this thing called skin, our largest organ, that absorbs not just hormone patches, by the way, but everything we put on there. That absorbs what's in the air, that absorbs what's in the water that we put on our bodies. So how can we not realize that, of course, we're also creating the well-being of this body as we are co-creating the well-being of the planet, or we're co-creating the destruction. Oh, big words, big words, big words. And I just wanted to talk about food. Hello. All right, come back down, Johanna. Let's talk about food. So you have said that you want to have better food habits, and you're overwhelmed by the information that is out there, and you would like help in getting started as soon as possible. And I want to see if I can be a facilitator so that more of us, more of you, who turn into more of us, and already are more of us, can be more effective in helping humanity into this next phase of a healthier planet and a healthier existence for all humans. For that, here is what Johanna's Raw Foods may be able to do for you. We produce a line of products that include a wide range of foods, from reddish food to a chocolate mousse. Not quite as fluffy as the one I had this morning, but a more solid, super delicious one called blueberry chocolate mousse. And then we have coconut truffles, etc. So we produce these foods to show more people in the world, to allow the mainstream to have these little packages and say, oh, I can eat that. And look, here, it's organic, it's gluten-free, it's vegan, it's raw, it gives me all these enzymes, it gives me all this essential fatty acid, it gives me, oh, look, a ton of protein. Because plants have the same proteins as do animals. Where does the bull get the proteins? Where does the cow get the proteins? Where does the pig get the proteins? So we provide those foods and can therefore hopefully be helpful to you as well in helping you make this new lifestyle easier wherever you are, whether you are at the beginning of including anything raw or whether you are at a level where you have a raw food lifestyle but you want more ease. When you travel, you want to have a package in your bag. When you want to go to your work and you can't make stuff at your work, you want to have something fresh with you, we can help supply that for you. So, and then we want to be there for you so that year-round, and that we means I myself and those who work with me and can help coach some of you through, together with me, through these changes when you need that help. We want to help you at least through a year, and as I said earlier, I think it takes a year to really establish those routines that center us, that ground us, that give us the, this is normal for me. That feeling, that's really what we want to have. It's not like a special spa outing and, oh, this week I'm getting massages and I'm getting all this wonderful food and I'm cleansing and I'm doing colonics and no. It's all wonderful. I wish I could do more of those. But it's to establish a lifestyle that feels normal. Nothing special. And when other people are saying, you know, why don't you eat stew that I made, or why don't you eat the steak? And you say, well, I just don't need it. You know, I don't. I'll eat my salad. And you dig out of your pocket some veggie burger bites and you throw them into your salad, and you have the same proteins that somebody else has from their steak, and you're happy, and you don't need to make a big fuss about it. It's just what you do because that's where you are. And it took me a while to realize how easy that is. You know, and people often then say, oh, aren't you offended by seeing me eat this and that and the other? And I'm saying, no, not at all. That's what you need. That's fine. I need this. I'm at this level, and that's what I would like to do. So, no, not at all. I'm not offended. I'm not even offended that you're asking me my advice but then can't do it, which I just talked to you about happens so often. I can't be, because it's your path and it's your life, and you decide. I can help, I can support, I can say, great, let's do this together. But I cannot missionarize, and it's something that actually always bothered me in my parents' generation, that they would go around and try to convince somebody of something. I think we're beyond that. We're no longer in the age of missionaries. Of course, advertising on television and elsewhere does a fabulous job of it in their own way. But when you really think about it, we don't want to be missionarized, right? We don't want to have somebody knock at our door and tell us that we're going to burn in hell unless we join a church or a particular group. So we want it to be our own decision. And I think it's very important to learn to make our own decisions and to learn to stick it through. But all of us need that group support to stick it through. And here I am going to almost wrap up, but I do want to include a couple more of your questions that include how can I have a life in the city where the air is not very good and where I want to keep my job and still create this healthy body? And I can say to that, we do within the framework of our circumstance the best we can. I too still drive a car that is a regular gas burning car. The exhausts from that car are not very healthy. I'm very aware of that. Do I get upset about it? No, because I cannot change it. As soon as they become affordable, I will have an electric car with a solar system on the roof. I'll charge it from there, and I will have a car made out of hemp fiber, which is totally possible, was done 30 years ago. It just has not been allowed in the market yet. It will take a while. So I drive my car. I'm happy to have it because it facilitates my going into the world and doing what I can, and being happy about what I can do for myself and for the other people. And of course, whom do I take care of first? This body. If I don't take care of this body first, what happens? I can't help anybody else. It's like somebody said the other day, you know, when you are on an airplane, put your mask on first so that you can then help your children. If you run out of air, you can't help anybody. So take care of your body. Be proud of this beautiful thing called your body. It is an awesome, awesome instrument. It can sing, it can dance, it can... The other day I showed somebody that I can still do a split. And I mean, I didn't even know that I could still do it. I was in my stretchy jeans, however, and I just went plop on the floor. There it was, my split, and my arms up, and there it was, you know. I did it. So this instrument called our body can do all that. And if we take good care of it, then we can accomplish helping humanity wherever you want to be. wherever your purpose is. And that is our last note. If you don't know where your purpose is right now, that is something I would like to explore with you too. Call me. There is a box on our website, Johanna's Raw Foods, where you can click on scheduling a free call with me, and we will work on your purpose and possibly a plan for you to pursue that purpose. And if you have a purpose but need help getting there, need support getting there, that too is the possibility for you. Yes, that's what I'm here for today too, to help you find that purpose so that you can finally move. We always need a trigger to move into that next chapter. So again, Johanna's Raw Foods is here to serve, to make raw food convenient, to make raw food go mainstream, to make it delicious, gourmet, wonderfully satisfying, and healing at the same time. I see that I'm having a hard time wrapping up. There's so much I still want to tell you. There's so many stories on my mind that I would love to tell you. Give you another example of somebody who came to me over the years. Many, many people have come to me. One of them being a young woman who had just spent 3 months at a hospital after, I think, her 7th suicide attempt. She was severely anorexic and obviously depressed, and yet all of her suicide attempts were really a cry for being heard, a cry for being loved, a cry for being told that she's beautiful. So she came to us from Europe to the US. She was smoking heavily, she was not eating, she was drinking coffee and eating sweets that she would sneak. That was the only food she would take. And taking all of that away from her and giving her raw smoothies, raw chocolate mousses, raw salty, savory, spicy foods. She developed within only 3 months into, and when we are younger, you know, sometimes we can do this faster, although then we still have to continue. She developed into the skill of going back to school, finishing her basic school. She was 19 but hadn't quite finished. Going to a trade school. She became a hotel manager. By that time she spoke 3 languages. Becoming a hotel manager, and then in spite of her really destroyed body from so many years of deprivation, she had a baby boy. The baby boy is now, I think, 4 years old, beautiful boy. And finding this new purpose in life of being engaged professionally, having her own child, having reconnected with her family, and creating a life around that positive impact and that self-esteem that she learned from being with us. And yes, sometimes I can be tough. Like I was told just a couple of days ago again by somebody who came in, I knew you were going to be tough. I don't know. I just think, you know, when situations are dire and when you've had 7 suicide attempts, you better meet a deadline, and, you know, the cigarettes go out, the coffee goes out, the sweet whatever lollipops go out, but we also give you something that's satisfying enough to fill that void, and within a very short time you will realize that the foods, when they're delicious and wonderfully spiced, can fill that void and can fill your, not just your body, because your body is finally being nourished. Your body is finally getting all that it has not been getting. So you're not hungry. So you're not feeling you need to deprive yourself of something to eat, otherwise you feel bad about yourself and you feel ugly. It's a strange thing. She explained to me, you can be addicted to feeling sick. You can be addicted to feeling hungry and crampy and hurt, because that becomes your, I would call it raison d'être for those of you who speak French. It becomes your justification of why you're alive. You're alive to inflict pain upon yourself. And only when you have pain are you right, or are you justified. So it's an interesting phenomenon in our psyche. So only when you turn that around, and again it comes with routine. It has to be that every day you have to have, instead of your bacon and eggs, you have your crackers and cream cheese made out of nuts. You know, we have a cracker called carrot cracker, and we have a cheese called cashew dream cheese, which is made out of cashews and lots of lemons and other wonderful ingredients. When you create a routine where every day you can have your wonderful fruit chocolate mousse, or a piece of cheesecake that is made out of nuts and fruits and lemons and other ingredients, that is not dairy cheese. Those routines need to be established for you to get a sense of, I am here, I'm in the right place, I move forward. So that's where I'm going to end. I wish that many of you have the desire to come and make that decision and tell me about that decision. Book a call or let me know by email what you get out of this webinar, and we'll take it from there. And we'll see that we have all these awesome experiences of realizing, bringing into reality that which you are dreaming of already. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be on the summit. You wouldn't be watching the video series, and you certainly wouldn't watch this webinar if you weren't seeking that transformation, if you weren't seeking that new chapter in your life where you move to the next level of awesomeness, of feeling that you're at home in your body and you have lots to look forward to. On this note, hope to talk to you soon, or chat, or phone. It's all there. It's all yours to explore. I'm very accessible still, and will be so. It just has to be carefully planned so that I don't overexert myself. But I love hearing from you. I love communicating. I love laughing together, and I want to hear your story. I want to hear you. I want to hear what's going on in your life that hasn't been understood. I look forward to all of you being part of this transformation. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being human beings who move the world forward. Love you. Bye.